Police arrested 19 people in a crackdown on a money laundering syndicate. And most air circulator fans fail safety tests conducted by the Consumer Council. Good evening and thanks for joining us. An infant died after a medical equipment blunder at the Prince of Wales Hospital yesterday. The top cork of an infusion tube meant to provide the child with medicine was found unopened for some 50 minutes. Patients' rights groups have criticized the hospital and called the incident a case of negligence. Timothy Lee has our top story.
The infant involved in the incident was born this Monday at the Prince of Wales Hospital after less than 28 weeks of gestation. The child, suffering from a congenital heart condition, was monitored by hospital personnel and underwent treatment in the intensive care unit. The infant required the use of a ventilator and drug infusion. Because of the premature baby's low blood pressure, hospital staff gradually increased the drug infusion rate at around 3 in the morning on Tuesday, from an average of 0.3 milliliters to 0.7 milliliters per hour. 50 minutes later, the drug infusion machine sounded an alarm and attracted the attention of the medical staff. They then found the infusion tube's valve closed, which meant the infant had not received the medication. Although the hospital staff attempted to adjust the infusion device again, the infant's health situation deteriorated rapidly and died at around 4 p.m. on Tuesday. The hospital authority reported the infant's death 1 day later. Meanwhile, Secretary for Health Lo Sheng-mao said he will address the incident publicly. The Prince of Wales Hospital has issued an apology to the infant's family and said it will do its utmost to offer assistance. But Lam Chi-yao, who leads a local patients' rights group, emphasized the infusion process is a common medical procedure. The group believes it's likely that human error was involved, and that it is unacceptable for hospital staff to discover the error almost an hour late. The Prince of Wales Hospital staff said it has taken immediate action upon preliminary investigation of the equipment error. This, as the distributor of the hospital's medical equipment stressed that it will update the safety measures of its machines. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Police have arrested 19 people in crackdown on a money laundering syndicate. The suspects allegedly allowed their bank accounts to be used for moving dirty money. Sharon Tang reports. The Education Bureau revised the procurement guidelines for aided schools with newly added national security elements. Under it, schools could disqualify suppliers or terminate contracts, citing national security risks. The Chinese Foreign Ministry and U.S. State Department have confirmed that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit China later this week. Chinese state media said Blinken's trip will take place between the 18th and 19th of June. The two sides did not say which Chinese officials Blinken would meet. Daniel Rao tells us more. A UK inquiry has found former leader Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament and lied about parties he hosted during a COVID lockdown. The former Prime Minister resigned as British leader last year when he lost the support of his party. He walked away from politics entirely last week with prior warning of the contents of today's report. If he'd stayed in Parliament, he'd have been banned for 90 days. The committee found he had lied on many occasions. The ex-PM has called the report a charade. Germany has announced its first national security strategy. The document called Russia the biggest threat to Europe and warned about being too reliant on China and other countries for critical minerals. It also highlighted the growing rivalry with China as Beijing tries to use its economic might to achieve political goals. Tracy Furness reports. Defense ministers of NATO countries have gathered for a two-day summit in Brussels, where it's been reviewed the training of Ukraine forces on F-16 fighter jets is about to start. Meanwhile, on the ground in Ukraine, both sides are claiming gains. Russia's launched more strikes on several cities. Ukraine's counteroffensive against them continues. David Garrett reports.
The aftermath of Russian rockets that hit Odessa, killing at least 6 people. Russia is also said to have launched attacks on Kryvyi Rih, while Ukraine says it repelled missile attacks aimed at its capital, Kiev. Kalibra missiles were used in Odessa, causing widespread damage. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky called the attack savage. The main thrust, though, was for the world to come together to stop dozens of components being sold to Putin's Russia for the manufacture of calibers. Another area attacked was Kramatorsk in Donetsk. This footage, shot on a police helmet camera, shows an officer frantically searching through concrete debris. We then see the dramatic rescue of a woman from rubble after what is claimed to have been a Russian strike. As Ukraine's counter-offensive continues, there is evidence of gains backed up by NATO.
We know that the more gains Ukraine makes, the stronger their hand will be at the negotiating table. The more gains Ukraine makes, the more likely it will be that President Putin realizes he cannot win.
Ukraine has taken back this village in the Donetsk region. Many images are too graphic to show, but as this TV crew entered the area, they filmed dozens of dead Russian soldiers laying by the roadside. Tanks were abandoned, as were other items like this child's buggy. Surrounding buildings show the fallout of extremely fierce fighting. Ukrainian forces retook this area on Tuesday. But Russia has released its own version of events. The Russians say Ukraine tried unsuccessfully to mount offensives on the Zaporizhia and Donetsk fronts. The footage they provided showed helicopters firing rockets, and the Russian Defense Ministry believes Ukrainian forces suffered heavy losses. In the southern Russian city of Rostov, 9 women and 15 men have gone on trial on terrorism charges. The defendants stood in a glass cage, some appearing gaunt and weak. The supposed fighters of the Azov regiment could face 20 years in jail. Russia brands the Ukrainians as Nazis. The group is accused of targeting civilians in fighting around Mariupol, a city Russia took last May. Those on trial were denied prisoners of war status. Back in Ukraine, striking images and sounds from a rooftop in the recently flooded area of Kherson. The images are from last week but have gone viral. Andrei Levashenko rescued victims from the flood when the Kharkovka dam was attacked and celebrated with music. The 46-year-old is hoping to raise spirits as the war drags on. David Garrett, TVB News.
In Greece, at least 79 migrants drowned early Wednesday, and hundreds more were missing and feared dead in one of Europe's deadliest shipping disasters in recent years. Back locally, the Consumer Council found that most air circulator fans had failed safety tests. The watchdog also found most latex balloons contain possible carcinogens. Veronica Lin tells us more.
Hong Kong summers are hot and humid, and as such, air conditioning and fans are essential. The Consumer Council tested the safety and performance of 12 air circulation fan models, among which 8 models failed some of the safety tests. 4 of them were found to have an increased risk of electric shock due to insufficient insulation distance.
For the consumer, actually, if for the insulation distance, basically, if a normal use, basically the risk may not be so big. But if you want to remove the fan guard or fan blades, then we will recommend that before you're doing so, you should unplug the fans to minimize the risk of because the electric shock.
Louis added that parents also need to be aware of their children sticking their fingers in the fan or playing with it. These models of air circulator fans are particularly dangerous as they have auto-oscillation functions, he said. Meanwhile, the watchdog also tested a total of 35 samples of 19 latex balloon models. They found that all samples released various types of nitrosamines and/or nitrosatable substances, some of which were suspected carcinogens. Moreover, nearly 70% of samples exceeded relevant EU toy safety requirements. Balloons are among the most popular toys for children. However, some still inflate them by mouth. The council recommends users to use a balloon pump and wash hands after touching latex balloons. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
Switching gears to more updates on finance. On Wall Street and around midday trading, in the wake of the interest rate hike pause, the Dow is up 0.97%, while S&P 500 is rallying in tandem, up 0.8%. And tonight's Mark 6 numbers are 5, 13, 17, 20, 33, 38. The extra number is 14. To the weather now, mainly cloudy with heavy showers at times and a few squally thunderstorms. Temperatures range between 26 and 29 degrees. And that's the news for tonight. Thank you for watching.